It's amazing what you can learn about trying to focus on other teams and, all about hometown pride and all that. I know a lot of YouTubers have the hometown pride, from New York or Los Angeles or Chicago or Miami and all of them, and not from like small towns such as, Brandon or like Saskatoon or St. John's or Halifax. Well, of course, I'm speaking of Canadian cities and all that. But, being born and raised in the Kitchener area, you get to know a lot of things and you get to have a lot of vibes with, people like for baseball, like Kitchener didn't really have too many players. There was one pitcher by the name of Ryan Braun who had the same name as that Milwaukee Brewers disgraced slugger, if you will. He came from the Kitchener area. Thomas Diamond came from Cambridge, no relation. For football, like Kitchener, not really a lot of people from the city of Kitchener would play pro football and all that. I know Taylor Eglisma, who was the best quarterback last year in Canadian University football. Of course, this being taped in 2025. Signed a deal with the Packers, but like he's not from Kitchener; he's from London. And then you got hockey and the fact that I'm always swooning over Kitchener Rangers stars like Mike Torquia and Steve Mason in the net. Paul Coffey, Al McGinnis, Larry Robinson on defense, and forwards like Derek Roy, Gabe Landeskog, or even the young John Tucker. I know a lot of them were not from the Kitchener area, but they played for the Kitchener Rangers, and you got civic pride. But for basketball, it was always weird to see a Kitchener guy actually make it well. And this guy went to the University of Kentucky, great school, spent 1 year, and then decided to come to the big boys and went with the Denver Nuggets. And he won a championship. And for dumb reasons, the Denver Nuggets refused to allow Jamal Murray to take the Larry O'Brien trophy to Kitchener. Can you imagine how big Kitchener would have been that day when the trophy came? I mean, it would have been amazing. But nevertheless, let's talk about the season in which the Nuggets could have repeated and maybe, just freaking maybe, bring the Larry O'Brien trophy to Kitchener. Let's talk about the 2024 Denver Nuggets. We're playing basketball Sims. We're playing basketball Sims. He's playing What If NBA. Cutter's doing What If NBA. Yeah. Oh, all the teams around the world got to know that the Raptors are number one. But what about the Bulls, Wizards, and Pistons? They all have great what ifs. Stories about old teams like the Kansas City Kings and maybe even the Minneapolis Lakers. But we all know we're going to do some basketball. He's doing basketball. He's doing basketball. What ifs? Cutter's doing what if NBA? So what if NBA? So let's talk about the Denver Nuggets as a franchise. Well, Denver did have a team in the NBA in the 1940s for like one season. But then a new renegade league called the American Basketball Association decided to give the city of Denver a team and all that in the Mile High City where basketballs were known to float. Obviously, you're like 6,000 feet, 5,000 feet above sea level and all that. If you're not a high altitude guy, you're not going to want to play in Denver. The Nuggets were pretty good. They were stars of the ABA. Them alongside the Indiana Pacers, the Nets, who went from New York to New Jersey, and I always struggle on these things, and the San Antonio Spurs also went their separate ways as the ABA would merge to the NBA, and at least the Flint Tropics didn't make it in. But anyway, Denver looked good. I mean, David Thompson, this guy who a couple years prior went to NC State and helped them win the national championship, upsetting UCLA's reign of terror, was a slam dunk guy. And Denver hosted a slam dunk competition, whereas the NBA kind of discouraged the slam dunk. But yeah, they came through with their ABA style offense and looked pretty good. The Nuggets would score a lot of points. One time they scored 186 points against the Detroit Pistons. Of course, that game went to triple overtime. But the worst part was they gave up 184 points. So you can kind of guess that defense was not part of the Nuggets' MO and all that. The 80s, they were pretty high flying. I mean, Alex English was a pretty good point scorer. I think he was, the second highest point scorer in the 1980s? Not even MJ was that way. But yeah, Denver didn't go far in the playoffs and all that because their defense would always betray them, or they play lack of defense. I'm looking at you, Doug Moe. Anyway, the Nuggets would get better on the defense and locked it down with Dikembe Mutombo coming over from the University of Georgetown. And the Nuggets were 2 games above 500 and snuck it into the 1994 NBA playoffs. They took on the 1 seed Seattle Sonics, and when the first round was the best of 5 before it went to best of 7 in 03, the uh, Nuggets shocked everyone. They won 2 games at home. Seattle won the 2 games. So they had to go to a fifth and deciding game in which it went to overtime. And then Denver, for some reason, won it. Dikembe Mutombo embracing the ball, and Seattle was shocked. Denver would put a scare in the Utah Jazz, but fell flat in game 7. But that's not what I'm doing. I would have done the 94 Nuggets and see what if the Nuggets of 94 actually went to the conference final. But I decided not to. Kind of civic pride and all that because of my intro. But nevertheless, the Nuggets were okay in the 90s, but they would not be well first until they picked up this guy third overall in the 2003 draft. We all know about LeBron going number 1 and Darko Milicic going number 2 to the Pistons. The joke was on us. Milicic won an NBA title. But anyway, the Nuggets were up at number 3 and decided not to take Dwayne Wade, not to take Chris Bosh, but to take this guy from Syracuse who led the Orangemen to the championship in his freshman year, and then he was a one and done player. He spent 1 year in college and then left. Carmelo Anthony, who was the star for Denver before he went to the Knicks and all that. And they trade forward Marcus Camby. Of course, good news for Miami fans. They got D Wade and Toronto got Chris Bosh, but nevertheless. Denver looked good. Melo was a scoring threat, and the Nuggets looked decent. They couldn't get much out of the playoffs. The Nuggets were kind of an offshoot until Jamal Murray went to the Nuggets in the draft, and he was pretty good coming from the University of Kentucky and all that. It was weird watching it as a Kitchener basketball fan watching him with Kentucky when you know damn well, if you know me very well, know that I'm not a Kentucky fan. I'm an Arkansas Razorback fan. So you know how things go. So anyhow, to purposely make a point, Jamal Murray was pretty big. And when the Nuggets won in 2023, I was happy. I was like, oh my God, Jamal Murray's won the championship. The trophy's going to come to Kitchener because, the Stanley Cup came to Kitchener when Nick Hague of the um, Vegas Golden Knights did his job. But the fact of the matter was that, unlike the Stanley Cup, the Larry O'Brien trophy doesn't really get passed on from player to player and put to different cities. I mean, after all, basketball teams have like 15 players and like coaches and all that. The NHL has like 23 players before the coaches and all that. But unfortunately, not so fast. The Nuggets decided that they couldn't allow the Larry O'Brien trophy to come to Kitchener. And it would have been a massive event for Canada. I mean, 4 years prior, Canada got the championship with the Toronto Raptors. But why the hell could they not have brought the Larry O'Brien trophy to Kitchener? I mean, you would have probably had like a lot of fair-weather Nugget fans, me included. But the fact was, Kitchener would have been huge. But the Nuggets have faltered flat, and as of this taping, they did fall in the second round of the playoffs. And maybe Jamal Murray might not win another title, but at least Kitchener got to say, hey, we fostered an NBA champion. But anyway, let's talk about the 2024 Nuggets. Anyhow, the 2024 Nuggets, this was the 40th season for them. The 50th season will be coming up next year. Anyway, they were defending champions. They took care of the Miami Heat in 5 games, and they got to the playoffs. Their 6th straight playoff berth. Well, it's now 7, obviously. And Nikola Jokic won his 3rd MVP in 4 years. The Nuggets drafted Maxwell Lewis, and they traded the first round pick to Oklahoma City. I don't know who was the guy that Oklahoma took, or did they keep him? Um, yeah, let's take a look. Oklahoma City to Denver. Well, Denver traded it to Oklahoma City. Not really showing me. Sucks because, yeah, okay, the 14 trade. Oklahoma City got that pick. And that was what it was. No Chiefs. So that means that, yeah, Denver, New York, Oklahoma City. The 27 pick would have been Nick Smith. So, nevertheless, they had Christian Braun from Kansas, Contavious Caldwell Pope, KCP from Georgia, Aaron Gordon, the perpetual dunk contest runner up from Arizona, Justin Holiday, Reggie Jackson, not the baseball icon, but the basketball player from Boston College, Nikola Jokic from Serbia, who was actually drafted during an ESPN commercial break, which Taco Bell commercial, if you will. DeAndre Jordan from Texas A&M, Jamal Murray from Kentucky by way of Kitchener, Ontario, Michael Porter Jr. from Missouri, Hunter Tyson, and Peyton Watson. So they won 57 games, but lost a tiebreak to Oklahoma City. That tiebreak was huge because that was for the first seed in the West. They would take on two teams who would make the playoff thing, and they ended up facing the LA Lakers, who went through the play-in thing. But thankfully, though, they won the first three games, including Game 2 when Jamal Murray got the game-winning shot. They lost Game 4, but who the fuck cares? Jamal Murray won it in Game 5, and the Nuggets sent the Lakers home. They would take on Minnesota in the conference semifinals. Lost the first two games at home to Minnesota, which makes things worse. They did win the next three games, and then all they needed to do was win in Minnesota, just like in Games 3 and 4. They would move on to the conference finals. They failed. Okay, then you have Game 7. And Jamal Murray put up 35 points. But all of a freaking sudden, Minnesota, for some dumb reason, won in the second half, and the Nuggets went home very unhappy. So, yeah, Jamal only played 59 games. I think he was hurt. Yeah, he was hurt. 21 points per game behind Jokic. And Jamal played all 12 games with a 20.6 thing. So, yeah, they made some moves and all that. That didn't really hurt them. They picked up Justin Holiday from Dallas. They left Jeff Green to Houston, but yeah. So they would have definitely faced the Dallas Mavericks in the final, in the conference final, not Minnesota. So what would happen if the Nuggets and Mavs would have bumped heads? All right. So here's what would happen. Dallas would face Denver. Denver would have had home court because they won 57 games. The Mavs with 50. And yes, this was the year. Yeah, Luka Doncic was still with Dallas. It was this past year, 24-25, that he got traded to the Lakers, which actually worked out terribly for the Lakers. And of course, Dallas now has the number one draft pick. So let's take a look at how things would go. Game 1 would have went to the Nuggets, narrowly 117-113. Jokic, 29 points, 13 rebounds. Luka would put 44 up for Dallas. Kyrie Irving, who I fucking hate because of how he ruined the Golden State Warriors in 2016 for the Cleveland Cavaliers. 13. Josh Green, Derek Lively, and Derek Jones. Daniel Gafford off the bench, 20 points in 22 minutes. Tim Hardaway Jr., that should be say Jr. Grant Williams, Dwight Powell from Toronto. PJ Washington and Dante Exum from Australia are the guys. Denver 31 from Jamal, 29 from Jokic, Porter, Gordon, Caldwell Pope. The bench, Reggie Jackson, Christian Braun, Justin Holiday, DeAndre Jordan, and Zeke Nanaji. Game 2 would see the Nuggets win 110-96. Jokic 19 points, 18 rebounds this time. Doncic would only have 19 points. Gafford 16 points off the bench. Hardaway 13 points off the bench. They would add AJ Lawson, Richard Holmes, Seth Curry. Yes, Steph Curry's brother, Seth. Maxi Kleber and Markieff Morris, who used to play for Kansas. Denver, everyone got double digits. Jokic got 19. They put Colin Gillespie, Jay Huff, Julian Strawver, Hunter Tyson, and Braxton Key in. Okay. So 2-0 into Dallas for game 3. And the Nuggets would lose game 3 thanks to Kyrie's 39 points. Remember who the hell he was. 27 from Jokic, 23 from Michael. Jamal got 16. 39 from Kyrie. Luka only gets 15. Well, they ruined Doncic, but they didn't ruin Kyrie. Damn. Game 4 went the same way. Dallas winning the game. Luka 32 points, 9 assists, remembering who the heck he was. Jokic with 27 points. Jamal with only 12. Reggie with 13 off the bench. There's Payne Watson. Oliver Maxer Prosper. Is he Canadian? Olivier Prosper? I think he is. Yeah, anyway, 15 points from Tim Hardaway Jr. More than Lively and Jones. Doncic, Irving, and Josh Green doing their job. Here two from Luca. So 2-2 headed to game 5. And just like the first 4 games, the home team won 116-90 this time. Nikola 30 points and 12 assists. 21 from Kyrie. No starter got double digits, even Luca. Hardaway had 14 points, but he was just, whatever. 30 points from Nikola. 21 from Porter. Jamal had 17, but he had no fouls, which is pretty good. Jay Huff and Julian Straffer. So anyway, the home team won each of the first 5 games, and game 6 was different. Denver wins. Jokic 33 points, 15 rebounds. So the Nuggets would have easily taken down Dallas and gone to the finals for the second straight year, where they would take on the Boston Celtics. No, that can't be right. Yeah, the Celtics. Yeah, that's right. The Celtics were the defending champs. Jokic 33 points, Porter and Murray 23 each. Christian Braun played 17 minutes, had 5 fouls, 6 years done. DeAndre Jordan finally came in. 31 from Luca, 31 from Doncic. For Irving. What am I thinking? So yeah, they would take on Boston. 23-24 Celtics, who were the champions. Well, the 64 wins. I mean, you might as well try. I mean, Boston is a legend with so many titles. Game 1 went to Boston 103-91. Jason Tatum, 19 points, 18 rebounds, 21 points from Jamal in the first game. Boston, 23 from Porzingis. Wow, Porzingis of all people. Jaylen Brown, 21 points. Jrue Holiday, only 6. Jason Tatum with 19. Dirk White with 13. Sam Hauser, Al Horford, former Hawks icon and Gator national champion. Xavier Tailman, C.V. Mikulik, O.J. Brissett. I think O.J. Brissett's Canadian, is he not? And Peyton Pritchard. Anyway, game 2 would see the Celtics win again, narrowly. Tatum, 27 points, 17 rebounds. Every Nugget starter got at least 14 points. 1, 2, 3. Then 90, 10 points. 27 from Jason, 23 from Jrue, and 21 from Porzingis. You got the bench, and Boston looks pretty good. Game 3 would see the Nuggets win on home turf. Jokic 22 points for 15 rebounds. Tatum with 19. Porzingis with 17. Derek White only 2 points. 2 points. All that. You see Luke Cornet. I think he's from Vanderbilt. Jaden Springer, Lamar Stevens, Neemias Queta, Jordan Walsh, and Drew Peterson also helping out. The Nuggets with their guy, Hupp, Pickett, Key, and Strafer. 11 points from Braun off the bench. KCP only had 2 points in 23 minutes. 2. But they still won. Game 4 would see the Nuggets win again. Jamal, 29 points, 11 rebounds, finally giving some hope. Sam Hauser, 14 points off the bench, more than Jrue Holiday any day of the week. There's Neemias Queta, Lamar Stevens, and Delano Banton. Denver, Jokic and Murray were the only starters with double-digit points. Anyway, the home team would won the first 4 games. Boston back home. It is 2-2, 1-1-1. And Boston would win easily. 26 points for Porzingis. He was the hero. The player of the game was Porzingis. Jokic would put up 23 points and all that. 26 from Porzingis, 25 from Tatum, 20 from Jaylen Brown. So yeah, it would go to game 6 in Denver. And the narrative was still there. Jamal, 31 points, 10 assists, remembering who the heck he was. So they had to go back to Boston for game 7. Sam Hauser had 10 points in 20 minutes, more so than Jrue Holiday. 31 from Murray, 27 from Jokic. We go to game 7, Boston with a 780 winning percentage against 695 Denver, and the Nuggets would fall 110-99. Derek White is the hero, and the Nuggets would have fallen in game 7, which all the home team won. So the Nuggets would have Boston take care of that with the fourth extra with the fourth home game. So the Nuggets would have lost in 7 games, would have lost their title in a very bad fashion. But what can you do? So the Denver Nuggets would have lost their chance to go back to back Apple Jacks. But who can blame them? Anywho, I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.